welcome back. This is the Poet is a Human with the Philosopher Dunamis on this week's episode number 43, Fight for Compassion. Please be sure to hit that like button on your way in, and if you like us, consider subscribing to keep up with our episodes on YouTube and give us a follow on X.
And Fightcast is here to empower individuals to live healthier, master their finances, pursue dreams, and inspire others through self-awareness and global impact. And this is for entertainment and educational purposes only, and not financial advice.
And don't just listen, be a part of the movement. Join our Discord with the link or QR code and step into the fight with us.
Heck yeah, Izzy, how you doing?
Man, I am tired. I'm physically tired, man, but in a good way. Good stresses. A lot of progress has been done in the business. Shout out to Shaggy Racks. We've had him as a guest speaker here. Him and I have been working countless mornings, countless afternoons, evenings, nights, overtime, and just getting our bases covered. And we've been making a lot of progress. So I'd say between that and a lot of recording, a lot of planning on what I'm about to give y'all next, it's been great. It's been really great and very grateful. So no complaints, man. No complaints. How are you doing?
Awesome. Yeah. Very similar. I'm absolutely exhausted. This last week, I feel like we got started on the social media posts a little late. I've had some long 10-hour shifts that ran back to back, but also very positive. It's not like it's not a depressed tired. It's very much because I'm getting stuff done, and we're closing here very soon on the land, which means we'll have some additional content as well as some pictures and stuff like that. It's going to be a trickle at first. We're not going to have a lot to report there. It's going to take time for us to even have electricity or anything like that available there. But yeah, everything's been very positive as well for me this week. So with that said, and to transition into what we're talking about this week, it's compassion. And I think that the reason we wanted to talk about this, especially, and we've mentioned a little bit in the past episode as well. In fact, I think maybe even the past two episodes, with regards to what happened with Charlie Kirk, and as well as even since then, the climate, the back and forth, and division between people based on what they believe is very extreme. And so I think that's something that we need to talk about. We're talking about what affects us, and it's affected me quite a bit. I find myself caught between being absolutely surprised at how I think one side of the country seems to be acting and reacting, which I think is very callous, personally. And at the same time, I feel sorry for them, the people that act that way. And I think that's part of what we have to discuss today is I think that we need to be able to see things through other people's eyes as much as possible. Charlie Kirk, there's a quote that's been floating around where he didn't like the word empathy. And from the point of view that he's saying that, I somewhat agree. I don't think that you can fully ever think that you see or understand someone through their experience, because we're all different. But I do think that it's important right now for us to try and understand why people are acting the way that they're acting. There's reason behind it. And I do think that the government and the media has a lot to do with it. I think there's a lot of stuff on the news that inflames both sides. I don't know. I could rant and ramble about this stuff probably all night, Izzy, but how has this affected you,
Yeah, I was definitely going to highlight what you said there towards the end about how it's been both sides. And that's how I've seen it. So I'll be completely honest. And oh man, and whatever I'll be is what I'll be after this. But I am really up here on this hill, and the only people that I really think about are the people that I talk to every day. And with that being said, the what it becomes is a me saying, well, I heard Fox say this and I heard CNN say that. And then the logical side says, okay, but didn't a man just get shot and lose his life? And the answer is yes. And it circles right back around to, all right, so just where's the compassion in that? And it doesn't matter what side of the coin you're flipping here, because we've seen it on so many sides. We've seen it on so many sides of the field. And we can all relate, we can all sympathize with death, but because it was a specific person, we're choosing push narrative even after a life, and that's not peace. That's not peace for anybody. That's not peace for that for his family. It's not peace for that's not peace for you, and that is fuel. That's just fuel. We're doing the exact same thing again, and we talked about that offline, and we've had plenty of conversations about this. So, as I sit up here and again just talk to the people that I talk to every day, and I think about what the world is doing, it's not surprising to me. It's just more it's a different thing that's happening, and maybe not even the action itself is different, because there have been many people that have been assassinated. It's a different person, unfortunately, and obviously it needs to stop. It just Oh man, like you said, I could go on and on and on about this, but that's what I see.
Yeah, and I think about those times in the past where even like when JFK was assassinated, when things like that have happened, you wouldn't have seen one side, or at least I wasn't alive at that time, but I don't remember hearing about one side celebrating it after the fact. He was a political figure, and yet the nation mourned. And I think that it's important, first of all, yes, to absolutely separate out the tragedy and be able to just be humans. That's sort of the first step. But the political part of it, what has me crazy is just how many people just didn't understand even what he was about, what he said, and and he did say things that were controversial. I don't agree with 100% of what he said. Um, I agree with probably a good bit. I'd say most of what he said was really good. I'm Christian, and so I think that young people should be monogamous and get married and have children and live a great life. I mean, those are all pretty uncontroversial things, or at least they used to be. Times have changed. Those statements that used to be very uncontroversial are controversial now. But I think that it's still, regardless of why half the country has some crazy ideas, I think it's sort of important for us to understand and not forget what Charlie Kirk was about. He was about having discussions with the other side. You know, he he had conversations with people that he disagreed with, and that's something that we need to probably continue to do. As difficult as it is right now. And I say that even after we've had the vice president say that we shouldn't have unity, but I think that that's kind of crazy. We've had the shooting in Dallas now. They had anti-ice written on the bullets, and the guy ends up shooting into a van. It's just nuts, man. Like when are we gonna just cut that stuff out?
Yeah, and with Charlie Kirk, I didn't watch enough of his stuff to say one way or the other whether I fully agreed, disagreed. Seen clips, shorts, things like that, but I know that people take the most viral stuff and they make it a clip, and for the clickbait portion of it, then you have to go back in and watch the whole thing and see it in context. So, There were, I feel like I resonated with a lot of his cores, what he was wanting to get across. And I think what made it controversial was just being, I don't want to say he was in a corner because, this is what he had chosen to do. This was his choice to go out here and have these conversations with, these students and have that open dialogue. Where I'm wondering is, from where we're at now to where we were before, when did constructive criticism just flip all of a sudden? Because back when it was a given. When you had your assessments, your work assessments and your grade cards and this and that and the third, how you would promote in the company, that's been a part of this. It's a part of human growth and even self growth. Not just somebody else evaluating you, but you just evaluating your overall self. So I feel like the more we're critical of ourselves, and or at least aware, maybe critical is not the right word, but just more aware of that, the less critical we are of others when they provide constructive criticism to
Hmm.
us. And I think that's where we have that delay now, just because of all of the projections, and people don't know who they are. So of course they don't know how to take constructive criticisms, because I mean they don't even know how to, criticize themselves, because they don't know who they are, so. And now you're looking at this media, and then it's all there, it's all polarized, man. And it's, people would rather pull a phone out and take a video than go help somebody getting beat up in the street. That's crazy
That's
to me.
nuts.
That is
Yeah.
crazy to me. Yeah, it's just so opposite now.
Yeah. Just regular common human decency. And that just reminds me of the post I saw this week of our guest, Drew Aces, who's going to be on here in just a sec. And I'm so glad that he took the time and he's going to talk about some of these things with us too, because we can't lose our humanity. We can't just, you know, if the other side is so evil, whatever side you're on, it doesn't matter. Whatever side you're on, if the other side is so evil, you can't let that turn you into something evil as well. And anyways,
Right.
yeah, I'm just so glad that Drew is taking the time to talk with us today, and we're gonna have to bring him on here in just a second.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited. Really, really excited. And if I could just say one more thing, I want to say one more thing, with that, because folks, look at it like this: all all politics is evil. So whether you're whatever or whatever, like, it's all evil because it's all one side. Because politics is meant to divide. So, like, all of that. So let's just, at least let's separate this. Find the common denominator. There's good and there's evil, and good is God. Evil is man's, the people that were born flawed. So how do we get closer to God? We got to look at that. So
We, one of the things I get, it's one of those motivational posters that it was in a place that I was working at one point in time, but it sticks in my mind all the time. And all it said was that you never know what battles another person is facing. And that right there should be our mindset all the time when we're interacting with other people, especially in this day and age. Like you just said, there's so many people out there that don't even know who they are at a core fundamental level. They don't have a real good sense of their identity. They've been confused for whatever reason by the world, by politics, by, schools, and they don't know where their place is in this world. And that's a very lonely, a very depressing, a very sad state to be in. And so it's the trick isn't to treat these people bad. It's not to say I'm going to treat somebody poorly because they're already being treated poorly by most of society, right? Um, all that does is that feeds into that mindset that I'm against the world. I want to do harm to other people, and all of that stuff. And so again, like I think that it's important to be able to view the other side with a lens of compassion, not necessarily empathy in the sense that, I may have no clue, and I may see the other side and say, I don't think I can relate with them at all. Like they're just too different from me in whatever way. Again, whether you're looking at it from the left or from the right, it shouldn't matter. I think what you said is spot on, Izzy, that all of this politics is evil. The left and the right, the whole concept of it, the construct of it is evil. And so whether you're looking through the lens from the left or from the right, I think the important thing, just if you're not going to get out of that political construct altogether, which is the best way to go, but if you're not going to do that, you have to at least look at the other side, I think, always through the lens of humanity, of understanding that they are flawed humans just like we are, and having that humility, understanding that we're flawed humans, is sort of the key to having compassion, I think.
Yeah. Knowing the facts. Knowing the facts. Look at both sides. Don't just be swayed. Look at it everywhere. And unfortunately, news isn't the way that it was before. And it's so slanted. Like you said earlier, when JFK was assassinated, the whole nation mourned. The whole nation mourned. So for it to translate into this is despicable. Sounds like a good word. But just know the facts when you're looking into this, because there's nothing wrong with being educated. There's nothing wrong with wanting to know what's going on globally, economically, and just understanding our world's market and how that really does affect you and how you live. You have to have those understandings. But we know that these people that work in the politics have been in politics for a very long time. They're career long politicians. They've seen a lot, and America is still young for the most part. And I'm sure a lot of those politicians have been through times of civil war and been through times of segregation. And there's still a mentality up there for sure that is influenced in the social construct that we have now. Um, and the other point that I wanted to hit was your sympathy and your empathy. Um, just, I would say, literally by DNA, you'll never be that person. Just by DNA, you'll never be that person. So to fully empathize with somebody, like you can feel the emotion, right? Like you can feel pain if you felt pain, sad anger, those types of things. But to specifically be that person in that moment and to know what they're thinking at every single second, whether it be this, that, and the third, we can't fully say that. We're not fully in sync. So to sympathize, I would say is definitely one that I resonate with more because like I definitely I get you I just feel
Yeah.
bad, like ooh, like I feel for
Yeah.
you, man. Like I may not know what you're going through, but that hurts, I bet,
I think
you know.
I don't remember exactly where it is, but in the Bible it actually has that mourn with those who mourn, be
Mm,
joyful with those who are joyful, that concept is makes a lot of sense to me. So yeah, when you read the room, right? I think that's kind of what it's talking about. I don't have to necessarily know everything about somebody's history to, like you said, if I see that someone's in pain, I've been through pain. I know what that feels like, and I can come along. And compassion is actually the action verb of it. It's somebody who's compassionate is somebody who comes along and does something. And I'm reminded of the Good Samaritan, you know, and you have this man who was beaten up and robbed and everything else, and you have people that are just walking by and not doing anything, right? It's so easy for us to be wrapped up into our world in our phones, like you said, rather take a video than actually help and do something. But it's pretty clear. I mean, there's a parable about it, about the man who comes along and he's, and not only is it's a Samaritan, somebody who would not normally stop and help a Jew. This is a culturally different packs that they're in. You know what I'm saying? And I would like to think we've talked about how color isn't a thing, but I mean, what if it was somebody who was in jihadist garb? You know what I'm saying? What if you came across somebody and they're straight up wearing Al Qaeda outfits and whatnot with the face mask and everything else, and they've had part of their arm blown off, right? I mean, half of this, what, not even half, 98% of the people in this country would probably say, well, they got what they deserved or whatever. They wouldn't do a single thing to lift an arm to help. And I think that's more what the Good Samaritan is about. It's and I'm using a very extreme example there, but the idea is that you should help your enemies. You shouldn't help them destroy you, but you should be able to love people because they're people.
Yeah. It's called The Art of War, right? The Art of War. And I don't know everything that's in that book, but one thing that I guess I can say is the emphasis on knowing your enemy and knowing their tendencies, knowing their culture, knowing how to blend, knowing how to adapt. And eventually, what you learn throughout this is the people that are quote unquote your enemies are really no different than you are. You've got a family member that has a condition. They have a family member that has a condition. Your whys are similar in a way, and just the actions that are performed for in conjunction to those whys. That's where we've got this bowl of spaghetti a little bit. And like you said, you don't want to help them destroy you, but again, the more you are able to understand, the more you're capable of having the ability to diffuse and de-escalate in whatever capacity that is. But that's how I at least look at it. And just again, viewers, please just we're not so different from one another. We're not. There are those differences in the sense of, again, literally our DNA. But just with everything that's going on, this is a perfect opportunity more than ever to just continue to focus on yourself, continue to love yourself. Because the more you love yourself, the more that is going to translate into how you communicate with people around you, for sure. And if you let the media and projections fuel how you respond, then you already know what's going to happen. So, this stuff is nothing new. It's nothing new. It's recycled. It's recycled stuff. It's just insanity. So we can all stop right now. We can we can all stop this right
Don't make me
now.
turn this car around.
Yo, don't make me turn this car around and go home. We're not going anywhere.
Man, this is such a difficult subject, man. But I think what you said about loving yourself is so important. And with that said, I think it's time for us to bring in Drew Aces and talk to him and see what he has to say on this too. I just this is it's really tough, man. It's a difficult thing, but let's bring him on, man.
Yeah, yeah. And before I get to his intro, I want to tell you guys just real quick how cool of a guy Drew Aces is and just how focused on himself he is. Drew Aces is the kind of guy that will wake up in the morning, drink his coffee, do his thing. He'll watch the news. He'll watch one news. He'll watch the other news. And then he'll be like, well, that's all shit. Then he'll go and pick up some litter on the side of the road and do it like that. That's the kind of person that Drew Aces is. He's not thinking about that. So yeah, I just wanted
Yeah,
to
you
throw
got to
that out
focus
there.
on
Yeah, let's get him in
what
here.
you can control. Heck yeah, let's do it.
I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go ahead and do the honors if you don't mind, because I got a few things I want to say real quick before I just go ahead and announce his name. I don't want to do him a disservice, but first of all, a great friend of mine, and honestly, a brother for real. I mean, he's just one of them ones. Anybody that can withgo a snowstorm with you on an Ohio meetup, and shovel the snow to make sure that your van's got traction to get back on the road to get home safely on a white knuckle drive. You know, I definitely think it builds bonds for sure. Forever absorbent for information is another one I want to put out there. We're talking about a nature enthusiast, an enthusiast of humanity. We're talking about X-Host, Twitter host for Interlocutor. Or, oh my gosh, I was like, goodness gracious, but let me do it. Interlocutor Radio every Sunday at 10:30 EST. A man of many hats. And speaking of hats, make sure you grab some merch at his apparel shop, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about Drew Aces is in the building, y'all.
How's it going, my friends? Lots of t-shirts, only one hat, but it's a tinfoil hat. Pretty slick.
Let's go.
Hell yeah.
Let's go.
Welcome.
And all that
I've
snow was
heard-
shoveled with no actual snow shovels. That was a feat. Shout out to you guys. You put in that work.
Hey, you got to put in that effort. You got to make it happen. Otherwise, you weren't going to go anywhere.
Right?
I rehearsed this radio like beforehand here, and somehow still I think it was because I was starstruck.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah, it's dope. But for the audience who have not tuned in, what is the radio all about? What is the meaning of Interlocutor?
I thought a long time about the title for that episode or for that show, and then I ended up just sitting on the name for the longest time before really what it ended up becoming formed into a thing. But an interlocutor is just someone having a philosophical discussion, and in the radio, it's both talk radio kind of vibe, you know, call in type thing, but also I love music. I love all kinds of music. At some point, I realized I may not have heard my favorite song yet. And when I thought about that, I just started listening to all kinds of new music. And just, you know, my playlist has got like 6 different languages on it now. So, yeah, I love sharing music. I can share music for days. But Interlocutor Radio as a space is just a discussion. You know, Sunday mornings are for contemplation. You know, your grandpa is sitting on the porch with his newspaper, just watching the sunrise, or you go to church, this and that. So, you know, you're waking up and dealing with a hangover from partying too much Saturday night. You know, Sundays are for thinking about things. And I like to get away from just talking about the weather or drapes and talk about some deeper topics, some things that actually matter, you know, pick at the brain. My goal is to tickle that little wondering part of somebody's brain and get them to just think about something a little bit deeper. And if they're thinking about that later in the day, if something that somebody said in Interlocutor Radio was still got them questioning and looking at things with a little sharper eye, then I've done my job.
Definitely. And I really feel like that is the perfect segue going into our topic about compassion, and with that mindset that you have with being able to pick that part of the mind and being able to really help people just explore areas that they've not explored, that they've had the potential to explore. Just seeing humanity in that sense, and just with the climate of everything that is going on right now. And I say that what's the word? I feel like it's a kind of a cliche to say that because to me it's been going on, right? But we can get into that a little bit later. But just with that mindset and what you've been seeing right now, where have your thoughts been? You know, what have you been able to compartmentalize with this?
People are so divided these days, and that gets said a lot, but how many of you know all your neighbors? Yeah, it wasn't that long ago where you would know every single one of your neighbors. If your dog got loose, it didn't matter that much because somebody within the block is going to come bring it back. You might have had that one person that, you know, the wacky, crazy neighbor that nobody really got along with, but for the most part, it was a community. And nowadays, most people don't know their neighbors. You know, somebody flies a Trump flag and somebody else is a Democrat, and all they see is this contention. That's just an example, but that it's just there's so much contention that people just don't say hi to their neighbor. Just be neighborly is like almost alien now. And I mentioned this to a friend of mine, and he was like, "Well, nobody owns their home anymore, so they don't have that connection where they want to build those bonds." And yeah, that is part of it. And we've got the internet, we've got phones and all this. It's very easy to be distracted. I come from a day where you could exhaust all the media within your house. You could read every single book and watch every single tape, and then you could either watch something again or go outside and do something. And it's like, I feel like we should make the effort to talk to our neighbors, to try and get back to that, because you live in the same place. You probably got far more in common than the things that you don't have in common. And with these political divides and with what's going on lately, you see people cutting off their own family members. People within the same household are just antagonistic to. It's like you have more in common than you have what separates you, and it just. I have this compassion and this pain within, because it's like, have we all forgotten how to agree to disagree and just to set aside some differences and talk about the things that bring us together?
Right.
It's happened. I want to say that it's happened a lot, and I feel like, as Izzy and I have talked about in the past, I feel like things have gotten worse, in particular over maybe the last 25 years, in terms of just a lot of the division and the indoctrination and propaganda that I think has kind of gone on with that. I know that there's real world circumstances and there's real world things that happen that cause people to dislike each other, but for the most part, what we're talking about here you're talking about somebody who's maybe over 1,000 miles away from where you live, depending on if you live right there in Washington, D.C. Yeah, but I mean, most of us don't. And most of us really shouldn't care about these things that really don't affect us on a day-to-day basis. But it's just, people take that in as a part of their identity. And I've spoken on this podcast before about how I even feel like these terms, Republican, Democrat, but even Episcopalian or Pentecostal or whatever they are, it's just a way to release the responsibility of having to think for ourselves. Mm. You're just saying, whatever this whole creed is, I'm going to apply it to my life, and whatever disagrees with that, I'm going to be, I'm going to disagree with it as well. And instead, it's so much harder to take things one at a time. It's so much harder to, like we were talking before we started recording, and we were talking a little bit about each other's personal lives and individual family members and whatnot. And it takes more to hear an actual story about something that's going on and be able to understand something than to just blanket apply it to your creed and say it either agrees or doesn't agree. That's so much easier to do, and I think that's why people do it. I don't know, Drew. I've been kind of rambling, but what are your thoughts on our personal responsibility to think and make our own decisions and treat each other as individuals?
I remember when I was a kid, we were walking into the grocery store with my dad, and we were going through the parking lot, and he stops. And he goes over to this car and he opens the front door and he turns their lights off and shuts the door and continues walking. And I said, "Who was that?" He's like, "I don't know." That was a thing not that long ago, where if somebody, you didn't know who that was, but you could leave your car door unlocked, and if your lights were on, it was okay. You could just pop it open and turn their lights off, and it was just a decent, good Samaritan thing to do. And it reminds me of I forget where the line comes from. I heard it from Duncan Trussell, but he said, "Tend to the parts of the garden you can reach." And that's what I mean about talking to your neighbors. It's where the rubber meets the road. It's It's why I don't vote, because I know that, but you don't need to worry about. You know, we were talking to my space yesterday about you can only have. They've done the science where you can only have so many acquaintances and friends, and at some point, people are just like characters in a movie. You can relate to them. You can cry over the death of a character if you really connect with them, but you're as connected to those characters, those fictional characters, as you are the actors playing them. They're this ethereal, almost fictional thing to you. And that's what the people our representatives in government ought to be. They're just, but people attach such an identity to that. Exactly what you were talking about. And there's a George Carlin line that's great. That's not in any of his specials. He was having an interview with Charlie Rose, and he says something to the effect of, I like people on a one-to-one level. If you look close enough, you can see the universe in their eyes. But it's when people start to group, when they start to clot, it just becomes this lowest common denominator, and people give up it's why riots happen. People throw their morals out the window because everybody else is just doing their thing. And I've always been a strong proponent of self-awareness and trying to pay attention to yourself. You were discussing something that made me think that we're very, it's just a human thing. It's a lot easier to give advice to someone else than it is to take your own advice. So you just gotta kind of have to have your ears open and hear what you're saying to other people as well, and just have that compassion. Something I always think about is if somebody is disrespectful to me or just not, just being a jerk, I try and remind myself, and I don't always do, but I try to think maybe they just got off the phone with a family member that they have a terrible relationship with 5 minutes before they entered my life for this 3 minute interaction. So maybe I should give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe not. Maybe they are just a jerk. But that's on them. And it doesn't have to bother me either. I think some of that comes to the victim mentality that a lot of people have. I'm a compassionate person, but I'm also unoffendable. I like offensive jokes and things like that because we should be able to laugh about certain things. Like, it's called making fun. And if making fun is a bad thing, like, is that a world we want to live in? We should be able to, yes, sometimes it could be a bad taste. Some jokes are going to bother people and they're going to make other people laugh, but it's the spirit. It's that, you don't know if a joke's going to be funny all the time before you say it. You just say it and hope, and maybe it's not, but the intention that free speech, and that you're trying to make someone laugh, you're trying to make someone smile. That's not coming from a place of hatred and vitriol, and we should just be able to, live and let live, and love and let love, sort of thing.
Even when I would say when I've memed and posted messages, whether it's on X or on Facebook or whatever it is, and it's been along that line, the questionable line, and you're really almost going for a shocking factor at times. When I've done that, it's not from I'm not trying to upset people. I'm not trying to go out of there to be malevolent, in the way that I'm acting. What I'm trying to do is wake people up. So there really is, with my family members, I've posted things that have been very questionable, but it's with that desire that, ultimately there is a seed of compassion behind all of it, because it's like, I really want them to see what it is they're not seeing. The whole right and left thing is just is getting out of control, I think.
Yeah.
And we've lost common decency. It used to be common, and now it's hard to find. It's not just scattered everywhere the way it used to be.
And there's so many ties into that, man. I mean, going back into our fight for community, and even what you were discussing earlier, Dunamis, about just being a part of this creed and seeing these set guidelines, and if other people aren't abiding by these guidelines, that there's a level of persecution that comes with that, chastisement, belittlement, anything. turns into control, manipulation, power, anything and everything in between. And what we're witnessing, and we talked about this offline, was the insanity loop of things happening again, history repeating itself, and where we have this polarized lens is now with the media, and the media is in your face; it's everywhere. So there's always something to be broken down, something to be discussed, something for somebody to disagree on. And like you had mentioned, Drew, like whatever happened to just agreeing to disagree. Now the extremity is we're getting violent about this, and it's going public, or just it may not even be physical violence, but now hate groups and social media is now a platform of power. But all of that being said, we have new distractions. We have new distractions. It's technology, but we already knew that was happening anyway. So, but looking at this in its entirety and what it is, this is about just breaking a cycle of hate. And I, I don't care if I sound like Bob Marley or the freaking tree hugger or not, but it's pretty simple math when you look at everything in its entirety. We thrive off of war. We thrive off of wanting to be on top, and this by any means, and whoever's in our way stomping over each other. We've done this one thing one way for so long that we are very much cognizant of what the other side looks like. But now we're scared that if we stop fighting wars, then there won't be peace. And that type of thinking, to me, is just so bass backwards that, like, that's how far conditioned we are in society. And that reality of maybe not in this lifetime starts to just come up. But I don't want that to be the doubt that we live with for the rest of our lives, and then we start to not give our 100%. We'll always be able, we always have to give our 100%, because even though it may not be in our lifetime, at least we know that the legacy that we leave behind, that it could potentially be in someone else's lifetime. We're so engulfed in constructs, social constructs from man who was born flawed. We're getting biblical technical about it, and whether it be flawed for the better or flawed for the worse, but you just have to, again, be aware of that. So form your own. God is within us.
And it's not just compassion for the other side that we need to consider. It's compassion for ourselves as well. Like, we need to, remind ourselves just as much as we got to remind ourselves about everybody else that everyone is flawed. We're all struggling through the same thing together. But it goes back to that, tend to the parts of the garden you can reach, I said earlier. There's certain things that you're going to be able to interact with, and the human mind does really bad with exponential growth. But if you just go out with the intention to try and make a cashier smile for no other reason than to just see somebody that's just having a crappy day and just trying to make them laugh or something, and you keep this little scorecard in your head. Give yourself 5 experience points every time you do it. But maybe that person gets inspired and does it to 1 or 2 other people, and then those people do it to other people. Now, you may very likely will never get to see or comprehend the vast positivity that could have been achieved, but if there's even a chance that there could be exponential growth by having compassion for someone, why not? That seems like a pretty good gamble to me.
I definitely agree with that. Any opportunity I have, whether it be in the music or the discussions that we have, even with people that we aren't discussing topics like these on the everyday with, just a smile goes a long way. Good posture, how you carry yourself, all of that unspoken body language, just your confidence can lift somebody else's shoulders up, literally. And you just don't know what you're doing to people, because it's much more than just this physical being and this matter that we have. It's the energy and everything that you put into the ground. We're talking I think it was Moto Mondays. We were talking about like we're flower. We're a bud of flower, and I won't go on a crazy rant here, but it starts with the soil, and it starts with how you nurture the soil. And I guess in reality, we're talking about land here. We're talking about the farming and all of that. So this all ties into to everything, right? But it starts with how you nurture the soil, and just the proper sunlight and what you're feeding it, and that's what we are.
Yeah, compassion is built in. I went for a hike to go meditate for a little bit in the woods because I don't know, being at home with the Wi-Fi signals and all that. It's so much easier for me to meditate if I can just listen to the birds and the crickets, whatnot. But very shortly after I start walking out there, I caught the scent of this dead animal, and instinctively I just went, "Aw," thinking, oh, there's some creature out here that didn't survive this dry spell that we were going through, and that's a base level thing that's built in. We've all put our hand on our heart and said, "Ah," when you just feel bad for something. That's that compassion, and to keep it on that nature topic, you can have compassion for nature as well. Because I go on hikes all the time, and it's not far out in the woods. Technically, it's within city limits, but at some point I had to give myself a self-appointed title of steward of these woods because there's quad trails and they're just leaving their cans and their bottles and stuff all over, and I had to ask myself, who else is going to care to give two half a craps to say, yeah, I'm going to pick this up. Responsibility isn't about what you have, when you have to step up. It's about when you ought to, even when you don't have to. Responsibility. What is your ability to respond? And
Mm.
on that compassion topic, so every time I'd go for a hike, I'd pick up 1-2 pieces of garbage, and then there's this manhole cover, maybe about like quarter-mile away from where you actually get to town. But I would just pile everything there, and then I said, once the pile gets big enough, I'll bring it back down and I'll throw it out. But I had some hope, and I tell I still, the karma boost I feel from when I walked down there one day and it was gone, that somebody had taken it upon them. I still want to meet whoever that was and shake their hand and be like, "You restored a little bit of faith in my humanity that day." Whenever I walked, and somebody did, they understood what I was doing and they took it upon themselves to take that extra step with no words, just simple understanding. And that's that wondering part of the brain. It touched that same part. Like, you know what? I ride my quad on these. I have to imagine somebody on a quad. But I ride my quad through these woods. I should care a little bit more too. And yeah, it's just compassion is built in. We have to fight to ignore it and to work against it and to be ruthless in business or whatever it is. But the rising tide lifts all ships. If we help lift each other up, even in ancient 1,000-year-old books and manuscripts, you get into the Kabbalah and ancient magic and this and that, and think whatever you want about it, but a lot of the basis of it is you have to, even up to like the secret manifestation and all that, like the real core of it is you have to want to help someone, and not selfishly, not saying I'm going to get something back from this, so that's why I'm going to help you. No, just I'm going to help you. That will be the reward in itself. And should karma reward me? Fine. But helping someone, putting a smile on their face, helping that old lady with groceries, whatever it is, these little things add up and they matter. Even if they don't cause some tidal wave of pay it forward goodness, is a little bit of compassion and decency that bad? If all it is that little sprinkle, I think a little sprinkle doesn't hurt. I think it's still worth it to make that effort to put that out there and make it not just an idea, but actually exist in corporeal reality.
Absolutely. One of the things I just want to ask is also when we have events like we've had in the past week or two that really divide, is there any bit of advice or anything that you could say that maybe we should try to consider to help us to find that compassion?
I think it's not a stretch to say that a lack of compassion comes from some sort of pain or hurt. And I was technically not an essential worker during quarantine, but I do a service job, and that means interacting with people a little bit here and there. But my job doesn't involve, dealing with people the whole time. But something I noticed, and granted, this is a small town. Pretty much everybody's on one side of the aisle instead of the other. But even aside from that, it's like when I was one of the only people that some of these people were interacting with, because they got to come see me about every 4 or 6 weeks, and they'd be discussing their problems with me. This 5-minute interaction of, oh, hey, how's it going? It wasn't, how's the weather, or, how's your family doing? It's, I don't know how I'm getting through. I had to become a therapist, a little 5-10 minute therapist. All these, I have a lot of elderly customers and everything. And that, analyzing that psychology was very interesting to me, to see the shift in such a short time and how much these wider things were affecting people. And it's scary because I'm seeing it again. Just in the last week, I've had 3 customers, each of them almost in tears, because they can't just talk about the weather, because they're in such dire straits that they can't pay for the medication for their sick husband, or their social security just isn't cutting it. And then they look at me and they're like, you're not even going to have it when you get to the age where you need it. You've been paying your whole life. And these old guys, like, at least I'm getting it. Like, I feel bad. And just like, if life hurts so bad that just the random person that you're interacting with for a quick service, if that comes out, that means that I'm sure they probably don't want to talk about this stuff with me, but it's right there bubbling under the surface. And I think we would do well to remind ourselves that, yeah, there's left and right division. There's division over, what you think of Charlie Kirk and this and that. But we need to remember that the economy is in terrible shape right now. Job numbers are awful, and they just keep getting worse, and they keep revising the data, and markets are going to come tumbling down, and that's going to hurt everybody even more. And a lot of these painful factors we can still relate to one another with, and it just goes back to finding common ground. Something I love about hosting Twitter Spaces, and why I got back to doing it weekly, because I've been hosting them on and off for years, ever since the technology first came about. It was really a blessing during COVID when we weren't able to interact with other people, but you can talk to people all over the world, and being able to ask them about their culture, and seeing all the different ways, because I haven't done world traveling and this and that, but to be able to talk to people from all over and see what's the same. Yes, there's things that are very different, but there's so many things that are the same. I remember the first time I went to New York City, and coming from this real small throwaway exit town, and talking to a guy there and being like, what do you do on like a Tuesday night? He's like, oh, we just hang out with our friends and play Madden or whatever. And it kind of blew my 17-year-old mind at the time. But as I grow up and meet more people, we're very much the same. There's a lot more that binds us together than separates us. And focusing on the separation, it's not paying off. I think we can agree that it hasn't paid off in the last 10, 20 years. So maybe we should try and make a concerted effort to move away from that, get away from that division.
It starts with us, man. It definitely starts with us. As cliche as that sounds. And bro, I really appreciate this coming full circle, because I remember when, we were like, how do we want to do this? And, doing it the same way, like, how do we want to do this? And, here we are on, God, in our 40s episodes, getting close to our anniversary, and, here we are just making it happen. So shout out to all of us. Everybody just pat yourselves on the back for a second.
Yeah, congrats. You guys started just a couple months before I did. I'm on like 32 or something, I think was the last one. So, yeah, you guys are just ahead of me. Congrats. Sticking with it's a hard thing to do.
It is that's and we had a whole episode on discipline too. Discipline is doing it when you don't want to. But I'm so thankful, Drew, that you made it and that you took the time to come and talk to us, especially about something that's so important at this particular point in time, which I think is a very important point in time that we're in. And man, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, and I'm glad that this topic is on other people's minds. That gives me a lot of hope that we can make something out of this and take it from idea and take that. If we're all feeding into this egregore, this energy of this idea of compassion, and we can extrapolate that to other people, that's what's going to get us out of this mess. Because I don't think any of us want to keep digging any deeper. I think we'd rather start building a ladder and working on helping each other climb out of this hole.
Facts. One love.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much again. And we'll have you on again soon, Drew.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it, guys. Great show.
Man, that was an incredible episode. And it's cool to have Drew on here and the chance to talk to him and to have Shaggy just a few episodes before too. It's just really cool to hear their perspectives, man. And I know we didn't get around to talking to everything we wanted to talk about, so we're going to have Drew back on here real soon.
Shout out to Drew Aces, shout out to Shaggy Rack, shout out to all of our guest speakers that have been on here. I feel like everybody that's been on here has got a sequel, and I'm totally fine with that, and I'm sure our audience would be well okay with that too. And there's going to be many more as well, so yeah, we definitely didn't get through everything for sure. You got to tell a little bit. So I know it sounds like he's itching to come back already, and he just left.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, awesome, man. Well, let's do this again next week, and let's start lining up our next special guest too.
Yes, sir. I think I got one in mind.
Awesome. Well, until next time, Izzy, never give up the fight.
Never give up the fight.
Could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. Looking for change, looking for pain. Pulling a mob, pushing a train. I'll never stop, stick to a lane. Pick up the pieces and go rearrange. I'll be the best above all the rest, put me to the test and expect nothing less, you check as I'm chess, what's happening next, yeah. He got the venom, a tangible weapon, no coming in second. This life is a lesson, he got a new engine from pain, it's a blessing. New focus, no guessing, just bold and obsession. All in his possession, you got their attention. I leave an impression and take a redemption. Just kill, no discretion, your mind is a weapon. 11-11, it's time for progression, You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try the chains, you can say no, free me. So he's been looking for somebody who could save him, instead of searching inside for what they gave him. A strong will, strong mind causes mayhem. We could change the world, change times, rearrange them. Staying on pace, running the race. Life is a chase, I don't want a place, I wanna be first. Work till it hurts, dehydrated thirst till I'm in a hearse. High ambitions and the right mind can take you so far. It's like you lived a few lifetimes. Take off from a break off from the weak minds, they can stay soft. You can change lives, you create thoughts, never waste time. You got one shot, you got one life, better pop off. What do you like? Make a dream job. No 9-5, no mean boss, just my life and free thoughts. You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try the chains, you